He washed the floor where men in suits passed judgment. No one knew his name until they tried to put cuffs on him. 7 minutes later, everything changed. But no one saw the moment it began. The sound of rubber soles on tile echoed faintly in the near dark. A pale slice of morning light cut through the blinds, striping the hallway in gray and gold. Somewhere down the corridor, a chair creaked. A vent hummed softly overhead, and in the middle of it all, Marcus moved with the slow rhythm of someone long accustomed to being overlooked. He pushed the mop forward, the wet drag of it barely audible under the fluorescent buzz. The floor smelled of ammonia and lemon, sharp in the nostrils. His uniform, blue, slightly faded, clung to his shoulders with the weight of a long shift already half finished. His back was bent. His hands were steady. He worked like time didn't matter. A door opened to his left with a hiss and a click. A young man in a crisp gray suit, latte in hand, stepped out. He was mid-conversation, Bluetooth in one ear, his voice pitched low and fast. "Yeah, we'll bury that clause before lunch. She won't see it coming." He turned too quick. The coffee spilled, dark, steaming across the tile. It splattered near Marcus's shoes. "Shit," the man muttered. He didn't look down. Papers under his arm slid to the floor like snow. He stooped to grab them. Marcus was already kneeling, one hand lifting the sheets gently, the other reaching for the mop bucket. The lawyer didn't meet his eye, didn't say thanks, just took the papers, nodded absently at no one, and disappeared down the hallway, still talking. Marcus wiped the floor clean in 2 careful strokes. No sound, no sigh. Just the faint scratch of paper towels on tile. He straightened, picked up a damp folder the lawyer hadn't noticed, and left it balanced neatly on the office door handle. As he turned, he caught a glimpse of the poster near the elevator. It had been there for years. Same gold border, same solemn seal at the top. Serving justice with honor. The words glowed slightly in the filtered sunlight. He paused, blinked once, and moved on. The janitor's cart squeaked as he rolled it toward the end of the hall. In the break room, the lights were off except for the flicker from the vending machine. Someone had left an empty sandwich wrapper on the counter. He picked it up without thinking. Crumbs stuck to his fingers. He didn't brush them off. Down by the lobby, the security desk sat quiet and hunched in the half-light. The old man behind it, Frank, thin as the broom he leaned on, nodded when Marcus approached. His uniform was 2 sizes too big. His badge sat crooked on his chest. "Left your lunch again," Marcus said, placing a sandwich wrapped in wax paper on the counter. Frank chuckled without teeth. "One of these days I'm gonna remember. Till then, guess I'm in your debt." Marcus gave a small shrug. No need for words. He turned to leave, but Frank stopped him. "You're not here," he said quietly, almost like a prayer. "But you're real. You hear me, Marcus? You're real." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once and walked away. At home that evening, the small apartment was silent, but for the ticking of a wall clock. A single photo stood framed on the shelf above the heater. 2 men in fatigues, dusty and squinting into the sun. One of them was Marcus. The other wore the same face, only older. He touched the frame. His fingers lingered on the edge. The next morning, like every morning, Marcus walked the same path to the courthouse, past the bus stop, past the pawn shop, past the little stone memorial tucked between 2 parking meters. It was easy to miss if you didn't know to look. Just a plaque, weather-stained, bolted into the concrete wall. A small American flag leaned beside it. The flag had tilted in the night wind. Marcus reached out and straightened it. Inside the building, he moved like clockwork. The third-floor copier jammed again. A trail of expletives echoed down the hallway as someone tried to wrestle it back to life. He passed by, stopped, and opened the back panel. His fingers moved with practiced ease. Lift, slide, clear the rollers. The green light blinked on. No one noticed. He kept walking. A voice called after him. "Hey, excuse me." He turned. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, with a trainee badge clipped to her blouse, looked at him curiously. She had a folder in her arms and a pencil tucked behind one ear. "You've worked here a while, haven't you?" He nodded once. "I don't know, you just do things differently." She smiled, a little awkwardly, and disappeared into an office before he could answer. Later, the same copier started again with a rhythmic clunk. Someone muttered, "Damn thing's finally fixed." Nobody asked who did it. The elevator dinged. A man passed Marcus with a nod. Not much, just a flick of the chin. But something in it lingered. Acknowledgement, maybe. The barest tip of respect. Marcus stood there for a second too long, watching the numbers above the elevator rise. The mop in his hand felt heavier now, but he didn't set it down. Evening crept in through the narrow windows. Long shadows crossed the courtroom floors. The chairs were empty now, but the silence was thick, like breath held too long. Marcus moved through it carefully, as though not to disturb the ghosts. He paused once more at the poster near the elevators. Serving justice with honor. The overhead light flickered. He turned off the last switch on the way out, and for the first time, as he walked past the receptionist's desk, someone whispered behind him, "Good night, Marcus." He didn't turn around, but something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile. Not yet. Just the faintest shift of air, like the first leaf falling before the storm. The parking lot was half lit, the kind of light that cast more doubt than clarity. A breeze carried the sour scent of exhaust and yesterday's rain. Marcus stepped out the side exit, trash bag in hand, keys in his pocket. He'd done this 100 times. Same shoes, same beat-up utility cart parked near the dumpster. He heard the voice before he saw the shape. "Hey! Hands where I can see 'em!" 2 flashlight beams pinned him like deer on pavement. The beams didn't waver, even as he froze mid-step. The trash bag slipped from his hand with a soft thud. Coffee cups rolled out. Something inside him stilled. Back against the wall. Now. He did as he was told. Slow. Controlled. No words yet. The weight of the badge in his left breast pocket pressed against his chest like a forgotten heartbeat. The taller cop approached, one hand on his holster, the other outstretched. ID. Marcus didn't move. The second cop was younger, nervous. "We got a call. Black male, dark clothes, loitering near vehicles. Could be our guy." Marcus stared at the pavement. A crack ran through it, filled with weeds. A gum wrapper stuck to the edge of his boot. "Name!" the taller one barked. He looked up, calm, just one phrase. "Check the badge. Left pocket." The flashlight dropped for a second. The officer reached toward him, but not carefully. Not like someone touching something sacred. Just routine. Just procedure. But he didn't check the pocket. Instead, the cuffs clicked tight around Marcus's wrists. "Got him!" the radio crackled. As they walked him back toward the building, his head stayed straight. but his eyes scanned the windows. Some were lit, most were not. Inside, people were finishing their days, filing paperwork, sipping tea, locking doors. He was walked past the marble seal on the lobby floor. His boots squeaked on the polish. He didn't fight it. He didn't speak. Third floor, hallway, more lights now, more voices. He heard them before he saw them. Gasps, movement, the scrape of chair legs. Doors opened, heads turned. Wait. Is that? Someone whispered. Marcus? His name landed like a dropped coin in a cathedral. He looked up. A row of faces. Office workers, attorneys, clerks, all frozen. A still life of confusion. He didn't stop walking. Behind his eyes, something opened. A flash of sand, screaming, gunfire. He was younger, dirty, crouched in dust, bullets slamming into a wall inches from his head. His hands dragged someone heavier than him through the grit. A comrade. No thanks. No glory. Just blood on his neck and heat in his lungs. Back in the hallway, the moment passed. Let him go. Melissa's voice cut through the corridor like glass. She stood at the end of the hall, red-faced, wide-eyed. He's not some suspect, he's an agent. The taller officer shook his head. Step back, ma'am. No, you don't get to do this. You don't know who he... A hand on her shoulder pulled her away. Someone closed a door. They didn't even look at Marcus as they silenced her. Then someone shouted. A body hit the floor at the far end. An older detective, clutching his chest. Panic broke. Voices overlapped. Someone screamed. Marcus moved before anyone else. He twisted, slipped one hand free from the cuffs. Some old trick his body remembered before his mind did. He dropped to his knees beside the fallen man. No hesitation. No request. Just pressure. 2 fingers at the neck. No pulse. He tilted the head, started compressions. Silence fell around him like snow. 1, 2, 3. His eyes didn't blink. His jaw clenched, sweat dripped from his temple. 4, 5, 6. He kept going until the old man gasped, and the world snapped back into color. They stared. No one spoke. Someone, an intern maybe, picked up the badge that had fallen from his pocket. The room read the name aloud, as if afraid to mispronounce it. Marcus Reynolds, Special Agent. The badge passed hands like contraband. The cops loosened their grips. Jesus, one muttered. Another stepped back. It should have been over then. But nothing ended. Not really. Later, in the locker room, the silence pressed heavier than the cuffs ever had. Marcus sat on the bench, elbows on knees, staring into the metal grating of his locker. The mirror behind him caught the slump of his shoulders, the dirt on his sleeves, the red mark on his wrist where the cuff had pinched. He didn't speak, didn't ask, didn't accuse, just sat. Footsteps approached. Soft. A pause, then a hand on his shoulder, calloused, gentle. You were always an agent, huh? It was the older woman who worked the early shift on the lower floor, the one who always smelled like lavender and floor wax. She looked at him, not through him. He didn't nod, but he didn't look away. You were always a man too, she said, and walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft, slow sigh. Somewhere, a vending machine dropped a can with a hollow thump. A radio played faint static. Outside the window, a flag barely moved. The world had seen him and didn't know what to do with the truth. The office was colder that morning, not by temperature, by air, by silence. Like everyone had read something on the front page, but no one dared say it aloud. Marcus walked in the way he always did. Keys in one hand, coffee in the other. No badge on display. Same work shirt, same quiet footsteps. But this time, when he passed the security desk, the new kid sitting there stood up, straightened his back, nodded. "Sir." Marcus looked at him. A slow blink, a twitch in the corner of his mouth. Not a smile, not yet. Upstairs, the doors whispered open as he passed. Eyes followed him, but quickly looked away. Some from shame, some from confusion, a few from something like curiosity. The door to the chief's office stood open, wide like an invitation. Inside, the man himself waited in a suit too sharp for the hour. His tie perfect, his hands clasped tight behind his back. The blinds behind him were half drawn, slicing his face in careful shadow. "Agent Reynolds," he said, like trying on a name that didn't fit his mouth. "Walk with me." Marcus didn't answer, just followed. They stepped into the hallway. He talked low. "I want to be clear," the chief began. "This department, this building, owes you clarity." Marcus said nothing. "I didn't know. None of us did." Still nothing. "We can arrange a transfer. New office, higher pay, something quieter, better suited." Marcus stopped walking, turned slightly. His voice came low and flat, with something heavy behind it. "I'm not leaving." The chief blinked. "I've been here. You just didn't look." He didn't wait for a reply. The chief stayed standing in the hallway long after Marcus walked away. At the water cooler, the officer who cuffed him stood awkwardly, cup in hand. He looked down, looked up, then away. He opened his mouth like to say something, but said nothing. Marcus met his eyes once, then walked past. In a side conference room, the interns had gathered. Awkward chatter fell quiet when Marcus entered. Melissa stood up first, clutching a notepad to her chest like a shield. Her eyes flicked toward him, uncertain. "You have a minute?" He nodded. She gestured to the seat at the end of the long table. The others shuffled their chairs. Someone whispered, We want to hear." He sat, put both hands on the table, waited a breath. Then, "You all talk loud." A ripple of nervous laughter. Marcus looked at each of them. "Out there, you don't always get answers. You get silence, pressure, weight." His fingers tapped the table once. "You don't fight that by yelling louder. You fight by standing still." He let that sit, and you remember who you are, when no one's looking. They didn't speak, not right away, but one by one, they nodded. Later that day, he passed the memorial plaque again. Something caught his eye. The flag had already been straightened. He stopped. A quiet exhale escaped his chest. He didn't touch it. Instead, he kept walking. Outside, near the curb, a scene was unfolding. An older man, bent at the spine, wrapped in layers, was sitting on the steps, head low. The same place Frank used to sit before his shift changed. This time, Marcus wasn't alone. The young guard had brought a blanket. Melissa held a grocery bag. The janitor with the lavender scent was kneeling, handing the man a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. They didn't look up when Marcus passed, but he stopped, watched, just for a moment. Inside the lobby, something had changed. It was in the way the clerk handed him the mop, without calling him Buddy. It was in the nod from the assistant DA. In the voice of the elevator lady who finally said, "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds." He didn't answer, but the mop moved with more ease in his hand. Later that evening, after the last trash bin was emptied and the vending machine reset, he returned to where it all started. The same hallway, the same light through the blinds, same poster, serving justice with honor. He moved down the corridor with measured steps. Someone turned as he passed and nodded, this time with both eyes open. At the far end, the floor gleamed. The smell of cleaner hung light in the air. He slid the mop back into the closet. Closed the door. It clicked shut. He stood there for a second, then straightened, his back tall, shoulders loose. He walked the length of the corridor. Halfway down, he stopped, turned toward the wall, toward us. No spotlight, no music, just the faint hum of a building settling into sleep. He looked straight ahead, breath steady, still. Then, so softly, it almost wasn't sound. Sometimes you just walk the floor, but you leave a trace in the air.